One thing I'd like to have a really detailed chat about is oversplits. Now, a lot of people assume that I'll say, don't ever do it, it's bad for you, never want to see you do it at all. And for most people, this is true. However, some sports and disciplines, such as rhythmic gymnastics, require it, and they'll get extra points for having an oversplit position. Now, there is a difference between overstretching and oversplits. Overstretching, we talk about taking a joint past its natural physiological range, puts a lot of pressure on the structures. We definitely don't want to do that. However, I want to go through the safest way of doing an oversplit, some things to be very careful of when we're looking whether somebody should be doing it, if they are engaged in the practice of doing it, to make sure it's not damaging any of their other training, because a lot of people are actually damaging themselves whilst trying to get better in this oversplit position. So the first thing I like to do if I'm looking at anyone working on this is ask them what they normally do. So can you show me how you normally go into an oversplit? Super. People use all kinds of things, sometimes a roller, sometimes foam blocks, sometimes a chair. Beautiful, yeah. Watch the passage in and out. She used her hands, which was great. Good, and what do you feel there? Nothing, okay. So the good things about this, you use your hands to go into it, which was great. Good thing is no pressure in the front of the hip, no pressure in the back hip, yeah. Any stretch through the hamstring? No. So the only time this is actually going to be beneficial is if we have a gentle stretch through the hamstring. If not, we're either getting no benefit or we may be damaging something else. The thing that I don't like about this is the hyperextension pressure it's going to put on this knee. So because the support is under the calf, this will actually load that knee into hyperextension, not going to be great for your knees long term. What we could do to modify that is place a little bit of a pad up underneath the thigh. This will help offload the back of the knee. Might even roll that up a tiny bit more. There we go, yeah. Just enough to offload the back of the knee. Do you get any hamstring stretch there? No, does it feel a bit nicer on that knee? Yeah. So they won't even tell you they feel discomfort in the knee, but when we offload it, oh, that feels a bit nicer, yeah. If you come forward over that leg, do you get anything in the hamstring? No. So really there's no point in you doing this mobiliser or stretch because you're not actually going to get anything out of it. All you're probably going to get is a little bit of a weakened knee. So really not a great thing. Pop out of there. Other places people might feel that, actually just pop back into it very quickly. Places people might feel it, compression in the front of the hip, don't do it, not going to be great. A line of pull down deep in that calf, neural tension, don't do it. Compression or pain in the front of the hip, maybe that hip slopping forward in the socket, not good, don't do it. Some people may feel a gentle stretch in the front of the back hip, that's okay. Definitely don't want any compression in the back of the hip or in the low back. So if you feel any pressure or pain in those, definitely not going to be your jam. Take these out and we'll just have a little chat about some of the other issues that I often see. So, number one is the foot placement. Now, just keep this leg on the ground, plop this one onto the block. I see a lot of people setting up to do their oversplits with their foot on a block or on a chair. There's a big issue with this. As the pressure of the leg gets drawn down, it actually creates a little bit of sliding in a joint called your subtalar joint. This is a very interesting and very critical joint between your heel bone and your talus. If this is set on the block and we've got weight down, it causes some sliding back of this joint. This can actually block your point range. So while a lot of people are trying to open out their hips, they're actually ruining their feet. Yeah? What you'll notice in this is that they get drawn back, then they try and point, but there's this kind of retracted look through the front of the ankle. We always want to make sure we've got this really lengthened feel, and you won't get that if the pressure point is underneath your heel. This is why I want any point to be shifted back underneath the calf and underneath the thigh to allow there to be a really nice opening through this foot. Yeah. Other issue is if people go and pop their foot on a chair. Again, you get the dragging down, dragging out through the subtalar joint. But the biggest issue is that the pelvis is often off the floor. So I just want to do a little explain of why this is not such a great thing. Our pelvis is under the age of 16. You've got a growth plate through that hip socket. We also all have this joint at the front, and we have our pubic symphysis, which is this little area through the front. If you've got one foot up on a chair here, one leg down on the ground, or worse, one foot on a chair at the back, we're getting a huge amount of rotation through the pelvis. This can create a lot of instability at the front. Often, kids won't feel it so much, but it tends to manifest later down the track. A lot of people who've been through a pregnancy have had issues with this when their pelvis becomes a little bit more unstable. We definitely don't want any strong rotational forces through the hips. So if you are going into any kind of oversplit position, we want to make sure that both sitting bones are on the ground. So if the sitting bones are here and the thigh is here, and you have a gentle stretch in the back of the hamstring, that may be passable. Personally, I don't think you really have much need for it. But if you're in this position, you definitely don't want pelvis off the floor, pelvis twisted, or any compression or pain in any of those other areas that we talked about. So it's a delicate issue, one that I'd really rather we didn't see so much. If you have an artistic sport where it's required to go into that range, I want to see absolutely perfect placement, a small muscular stretch in the hamstring of the front leg. If there is any other restriction, we need to deal with it in the order of priority that we go through, working on breath first, bone on bone or joint restrictions, neural tension, fascial tension, and then finally any muscular issues. Really important that we're looking at these tissues sensitively, and as I always say, use these kind of traditional stretches as tests rather than as exercises. Then we need to get more intelligent about resolving any of those restrictions before reassessing, and then most importantly, building the strength and control and dynamic stability to actually be able to use it when you're performing.